Retailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. We are episode number 21. I'm here with Mr. Joel LaPalme, who's a great friend of mine. He's the president of the IGL Group USA and also the co-founder owner of Clara Clark Canada. And we can talk through some of that as well. But welcome, Joel. I'm excited to have you on here.
Right on. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, give me what I've been telling everybody is give me your superhero backstory in detailing, right? So
In
like
detailing,
I want to,
there is
I mean, detailing, you've been in the industry. I've known you for almost 10 years now. And I mean, you've been in the industry doing that, but you have just not necessarily in detailing, but just in general. Tell us who you are, where you came from, what you do other than this.
Sure. So I was in the retail industry for 27 years and managed and looked after companies like, if I say Price Club, you're probably going to say who?
No, I know Price Club. Yeah.
Today known as Costco. So I was a director with them, and I was a director with the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is the largest purchaser of alcohol globally. There's no bigger buyer of booze than the Liquor Control Board of Ontario because it's controlled by the government. It's not individuals, right? So I was a director there, and then I finished my career working for the largest Italian importer of foods into North America for 12 and a half years. So I was the right hand of the owner of the company and spent a lot of time in Italy, a lot of time around the world, sourcing products, wonderful products like Bacci chocolates, Carapelli oil, Buitoni pasta, De Cecco. We controlled all of those brands.
Wow.
So it was a large business. And very, very fortunate to have been in food my whole life. I started off packing groceries when I was 15 years old. It was my part-time gig, and I made more money bringing the groceries to people's cars and putting them in the trunk because, I was always nice and, smiley and happy, and I'd always get a good tip. So back then you were allowed to get a tip. So, yeah.
Well, now you have to check out yourself and carry your own stuff. Yeah. I don't think many bag boys or bag girls exist anymore, for sure.
I don't think it happens. It's funny. I had a friend of mine. He was at the Walmart here locally in Canada where I live. And they had to call the cops because he was in the lunchroom. And the cops came up and they said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, fuck, I just worked for 10 minutes. I'm allowed to break like anybody else."
Any other employee that works here, right?
Yeah. So he figured, what the hell? I'm going to go in the lunchroom.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's they just remodeled the Walmart here, and literally they put in one or two normal checkouts.
Real checkouts.
But they don't have anybody at them, which is fine, But
you
kind of get used to it.
It's sad because you're losing that. And as a store, the biggest thing, I owned a Loeb store, a grocery store, in back in my day. And one of the things that I did which was very important to me, is when I took over the store, every night for about 3 months, I'd walk in the neighborhood, knock on doors, introduce myself, let them know that I owned a grocery store in town. And I wasn't sure if they'd shop there or somewhere else. And I wanted to know what was our store not able to provide to them and what was it providing to them that they liked. So that way there we could, modify things and stuff like that so that we could keep our customers happy. Today, there's nobody talking to customers. So you get no feedback, you get no ideas, no growth, no stimulation. So it's tough. And again, I think that you don't see any sharp rises. Now it's like this or maybe a little rise. Yeah. But you don't see the sharp rises because of something that you did to, attract more business or motivate more customers.
Yeah, I think Walmart's whole premise now is just, race to the bottom, very minimal margins if you work with them. We've had a couple of products that we've thought about doing major retailers and stuff, but it's not only do you not get paid for like a year, but also you make so little money on each product that it ends up not being worth it because they just beat you up on that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because they brought that over to the car industry too, because your United Auto Parts or some of the big automotive chains, they have like a 1 year payment term, and then you got to go and pay an extra 3% to factor your money so you can get paid today.
Yeah, and then if you don't sell it, they send it back to you, so you get pallets.
And they charge you a restock.
Oh yeah,
you don't charge them; they charge you.
That's right.
So it's a little crazy.
Yeah, some people talk about big retail, and there's just, direct to customer or through a distribution network like you guys have is definitely the way to go. So I stopped and interrupted you at after your food career. And I know you've got kind of more, you've got other things that you've done along the way. It's a lot of years for someone of 35 like yourself.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No gray at all. No gray at all. This is all white flesh. No, it's funny because I enjoyed my career. I really did. I managed a lot of people. I've employed a lot of people in my life. I think we were going through numbers a little while back because I was working with somebody trying to write a book. So I've been working with somebody about something like that. And I think we came up to about, I've been responsible for over 21,000 employees in my life.
Wow.
So that we're either direct subordinates or indirect through, managers that work for me, but they had their people. So it's quite eye-opening when you go through that. And then when I stepped back and sort of semi-retired a little bit, and then my wife got fed up and says, "You got to go find a job." That's when I got a detail shop in our little town here, and I hired people, and we started to grow. And then I had a lady come in, ask me if I wanted to coat a car for her, and I didn't know what coatings were. I had no idea. This is 7-8 years ago, and no clue whatsoever. And I said to her, "Okay, let me look into this." And I Googled a company and I contacted them, and they weren't interested in selling to me. No problem. So I Googled another company, IGL, and I reached out actually directly to the head office in Malaysia because I couldn't find a Canadian distributor at the time. And I spoke with Kyung, the CEO owner, and he had instructed to me that they don't have a Canadian distributor. So I said, "Well, what if I give you my credit card? Can I just buy product to try it out?" And so I did that, and it worked out okay. The lady wanted more cars then. So I called Kyung back again, and I said, "Hey, I need to buy more product." And he says, "We don't have a Canadian distributor." I said, "I know." So what would it cost to be a Canadian distributor? I didn't know anything about detailing, but I knew about distribution.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I did distribution for food for 27 years. So I said, "What would it take?" And then he said, "Well, X amount of money, and you got to guarantee so much a year." And I said, "Okay." So a couple of weeks go by, and he calls me and he says, "I received some money from you." And I said, "Well, that's what you told me." He said, "Oh, you're serious?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, what would you like?" I said, "I don't know what you sell." So I said, "Whatever you sell, and then we'll figure it out, and we'll grow and we'll learn." And then my partner, Jeff, today, he was semi-retired. He comes from the seismic data industry, so oil and gas.
Yep.
He had taken a public, his company public, and they had sold. And so he was doing, Jeff and I met curling and golfing. So we curled together and golf, a couple nights a week with a bunch of guys. And I said, "Hey, how are you enjoying your retirement?" He said, "Oh, it's okay, but my wife's giving me some hard time sometimes to find something to do." And I said, "I have an idea. Why don't you take a look at this?" And I gave him the website of IGL, and he came back and he says, "Wow, that looks really cool." I said, "What do you think?" He says, "Yeah, I'm interested." I said, "Perfect." Because I had already spent some money. So he said, "Here, half, and there we go. We're partners. Let's go." So, and we went to literally not even a month after that, we went to our first SEMA ever. So we went to walk and look because they had an IGL USA at that time.
And what year was this?
It was a company out of Hawaii that was running it.
No, what year?
Oh, 7 years, 6.5, 7 years ago. That would be
2016,
17, 18.
Okay, 17, 18.
Yeah. So we went to SEMA, and that was already Keong's second or third year there. They had a 10 by 10 and very basic, a wall. They had a hood. People were polishing it and stuff like that. And I said, Jeff and I, we knew nothing about detail, but we knew about trade shows and business. And I said, this is horrible. I don't know what you guys are doing, but you can't be doing this. And I'm watching everybody else's booth, and I'm scratching my head, and nobody's talking to customers, and everybody.
And were they over in that, which is kind of annexed now, but were they over where the other Asian companies were?
No. They were right where everybody else was along the wall at the time. I think the 2 years prior to that, they were over there, like where you start type of thing.
Yeah.
But no, they were in the main hall. But I was just scratching my head. And I was saying, this is ridiculous. Nobody's talking to people. And I was watching every booth. And you know what? They were more worried about showing people vehicles and showing people how to polish. And it made no sense. And anyways, so we had a meeting with him, and we said that, you're going to be calling us because you're going to want us to take over the U.S. Oh, no, we're doing fine. And 4.5 months later, we got the call, and Jeff and I are like, yeah, let's do it. So when we took over the U.S., there was 35 customers. And today we're over 5,600 and something customers.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've got a really, really good customer base. We're very, very pleased. And in different divisions, like we have automotive, we have industrial. Not everybody that does industrial are automotive guys. You know what I mean? We have some marine guys that are just marine guys. So it varies. And we've got other new stuff coming, industrial, commercial, that are going to open other doors for people. And it's cool. So for the guys that are really entrepreneur or have those contacts or those leads, it's great. They can take it and go. We've got guys that did our Aegis class not even 7-8 months ago, and they're $500,000 in business already in 7-8 months.
Yeah, the Aegis is the industrial, right?
Yeah. And we went. We also invested. We went and did AMPP in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, which is the world's largest oil and gas show. So we put in a booth there because that's a big market for corrosion. So we did that, and the DOD was there. We were invited to a specific thing for them. We did that. So, it opens doors that you wouldn't imagine.
Yeah. And I think most people, at least that would be listening to this, if they're in the industry, they understand what IGL Coatings is.
Yes.
Explain what the industrial side of this looks like. Because it's, I kind of have an idea, but how it gets used in hospitals and,
sure,
like you said, oil and gas.
So the funny thing is you see a lot of our competitors coming out and say, oh, we have an industrial coating. We have an industrial coating. This is not a coating, first of all. It's a 2K category C5 paint system. So this is not a coating. So you can't, there's nobody in our industry that has what we have. Our competitors are Sherwin-Williams, PPG, Alco Nobel. Those are the people that we compete against in the industrial world.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS. So would it be considered like a super high solids clear coat? Kind of that?
Pretty, yeah, you can, but you can also tint it.
Okay.
So you can tint it to whatever. So like in a Case IH example, if we're doing tractors, like the tracks, because they corrode over time, they want them black or red as the tractor goes, or a New Holland, which is blue. We can do that. We can tint it. The biggest thing is the amount of hours that we've done in the salt water spray booth. We are surpassed 600. We were starting to get weak at about 580, but we decided because we had made the investment to go to 600 that we would finish there. And we didn't continue. We stopped at 600. But our closest competitor, I think, is at 180.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, like, we're talking huge difference. 30, 40, 50 years in corrosion, anti-corrosion control. We work with some of the largest crane manufacturers on the planet. How the product came about was one of Ominent, which is the owner of IGL Coatings. IGL is our brand, right? It's our house brand. The manufacturer, so Kyung's company again. We were asked to look at doing a corrosion control coating so that people could ship vehicles from Korea to the United States to Australia, from wherever they're being manufactured globally. And the problem was when they were arriving, everything was rusted.
Oh, wow.
From the freight, right? Just from ocean freight. Ocean is not very nice.
No.
So the salt water would destroy everything before it even. So imagine you're sending Ford Mustangs from here, the U.S. to Australia. Well, when they arrived, you go to pick up your brand new Ford Mustang at the Ford dealership in Australia. You're paying over $100,000, and the whole chassis is rusted out. It's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
And even a crane, when you're buying a crane and you're having it shipped from Malaysia to Azerbaijan for an oil rig out in the middle of the Caspian Sea, and it gets there and a lot of it's rusted, and you just spent, $80, $100 million on a crane and it's rusted, not a good thing. So what they needed a product that they could be applied that at least when the products arrived or the final products arrived, they wouldn't be rusted. So that's what they got. And then when we saw that, we're like, wow, can we have access to a product like that? Because we manufacture it, but is it something? So that's when we decided that, okay, you know what? There's detailers and then there's business people. And I want to go after a lot of the business people because you're a guy that has a lot of contacts that may have had another career that may know a lot of people. We're working with guys from the military. A lot of detailers are military background guys, and they have specialty. Like we were working with one gentleman who worked full time at U.S. Silica. And one of the issues there was corrosion. Big problem with silica and corrosion. And and then we started to do tests for them. And then all of a sudden, guess what? They're a client.
Wow.
So now and even when you look at the agricultural, it's not just the tractors or whatever, but the fertilizers. Fertilizers are extremely corrosive. And what we did is we started doing testing with the manufacturers like Case IH, John Deere, and where the corrosion was happening and why it was happening and what fertilizer was causing it and so on and so forth. And so we started working with them, and now we're doing a lot of work with them. The subway system. subway system. So when you go underground, there's a lot of moisture. It gets wet, right? And what happens is the concrete tunnels, they start to corrode and erode over time. So that's why bridges are a horrible thing, because over time you see them collapsing because of corrosion. That's why they collapse. So, we just finished doing some work in the New York City subway tunnels.
And I would assume in the subway too, because you have constant electricity, there's electrolysis that even exacerbate 100%. The problem and all that, right?
Yeah. And now that you mention that, so a lot of people don't know that, but that's how they do a lot of the corrosion testing in the oil and gas, is with electricity and, with a sponge and checking it out and seeing how it reacts and where the weak spots are, and then they use a paint system. And that's where we had an advantage over our competitors right off the get-go, is that Sherwin-Williams, Alcoa-Nobel, and all those, none of them could make their products clear.
Okay. Yeah, that's a problem.
So that was one of the beautiful things that we were able to achieve and successfully achieve. So now in the oil and gas, they can use our products on joints and just fly a drone down the lines and see where the corrosions issues may be arising, and then just target those areas. Whereas our competitors, it was black. So when you're painting the anti-corrosive product, you could fly down, but you're not seeing nothing. But you're not going to see the corrosion.
That's actually a good point. I never really thought about that. My family's in oil and gas. We have been since the 80s, which was a good time and a bad time to be in oil and gas. Yeah. But so are these field applied, or are they done at the factory and then touched up over the number of years in the field?
Can be done both, because you can spray it, you can roll it, you can sponge apply it, you can do whatever. So can be done right on location, can be done prior to going out. So, if we're shipping out, 300 miles of pipe, we can do them all in the factory, then send the pipes out. So they're different versions of it.
So you're going in and actually setting up this in the factories as well. And I know you're still working through some of those details, but you're actually setting up those kind of things in the factory itself.
Yeah, so we're working with different companies that want to do stuff like that and want to solve real world problems. The U.S. government last year spent, I think the number is $3.2 trillion in corrosion control. They spent more money on corrosion control than they did at the DOD last year.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's their highest expense. So you think about it, anything and everything. When you go home tonight or do anything and everything that you see that shit, that's rust. We could have fixed that. We could have had that, because you can coat wood, concrete, glass, steel. So because they all corrode. Wood corrodes. People might not think so. Go to Florida. Go down by the ocean. There's a lot of wood decks that are corroding.
Yeah.
Docks corroding. So these are all things that you can look after.
Well, as you know, Michelle is a welder, kind of hobbyist welder. So she's getting ready to do a big art project that she's been wanting to work on. So maybe we'll have to get some of that stuff and coat, because it's all obviously all steel.
Yeah.
So it'd be something interesting to, and it's going to live outside. So that'll be something to look at.
Yeah, it's cool. We did a different plates, stainless steel, aluminum, all kinds of different stuff last year. And we coated half and not the other half. And you'll see them. We bring them to SEMA. We had them at SEMA last year. We bring them to different shows. And we put them on top of a building in Montreal in end of August. And we didn't go back up till April. And the one half looked like your back wall, like brown, like really just brown, the whole thing. And the other side was perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Actually, the other side on the edges, it was a little bit of corrosion because we rolled it. So where we would have missed it, like where we wouldn't have rolled it properly. So which is kind of cool because it shows the real test.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff on the go. We got different things, and again, it's to give detailers or give business people who want to take that dive, a different opportunity or a different go for. We
So
got
what
one
would-
guy right now. He's
Go
doing
ahead.
20,000 lights for
Really?
I want to say football team or a hockey rink or something. But you know the domes of the lights and they're all metal.
Yeah.
So they're coating every one of them with ages.
Wow. And yeah, again, there you've got kind of static electricity going on that pulls that in. We're fortunate here in Montana because it's really dry, like 10% humidity. We don't deal with a ton of corrosion, but we do. We still deal with it. Luckily, not like you guys that live in Salt Belt and those kind of areas.
No.
But it's
but
still,
you in Montana where you were at, you get winter.
like 9 months of it.
Okay, so but you're undercoating cars.
Yeah, they're mag chloride. We use mag chloride out here, which is a variation of the salt, so it will corrode for sure. So the undercarriage is definitely.
Yeah. So what's happening here and what we're realizing is, first of all, the things that the detailers hate the most is undercoated vehicles because it's a mess, right? It's oil sprayed everywhere, and it's just disgusting. It's hard to clean, hard to do anything with. So yes, we're not cheap like oil.
Yeah.
But the guys that want to invest the money, and you're going to see more and more, like the roofers, they're doing quite a bit for some dealership groups, and they're in New York, and they get bad winters there too. And so they lift them up, they take everything off, they tape everything, and they age just the whole bottom. Now, instead of, I don't know what's an undercoating, $120, $150, I guess.
Probably.
It's not expensive.
Not too bad. Couple $100.
Couple $100, but you got to do it almost every year.
Yeah.
And it's a mess. Where this, you're going to do it once. And yeah, I may charge you $800, $1,200 to do it once, but it'll look clean. It'll look good for as long as you own the car and probably the next 3 guys.
Yeah.
And the beauty part is on that, $800 to $1,200, your cost to do that car might be $200. Time everything.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a good ROI for, that's why I say business people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that process look like if somebody's just doing automotive and maybe they're IGL, maybe there's something else, but what does that process look like to go from that to, obviously, if you're in farm and ranch country, then that makes total sense. But what does that kind of process look like in order to get involved in that and to expand into that?
So basically the first thing is to be able to buy the product, you have to go to Kentucky for the training. So we have an industrial commercial training. And the reason you have to go there is you have to learn all about PPE. You have to learn all about state regulations. You got to learn about VOCs. You got to learn a lot of different things, right?
Because it's way more heavily regulated than just a wipe on ceramic, right?
Well, actually, I'll be honest, even just a wipe on ceramic for cars, they're regulated too. Now, does every company, declare everything that's in their bottles? Probably not. We do, because we're a large manufacturer and we value what we do, and we've pulled products from the scene because of certain things that we, either back in the COVID days, we had product that we had to pull because of EPA reasons, and we got them out. We don't try to sneak anything, and that's why if you go to our websites, everything is public. The TDSs, the MSDS, we don't hide nothing. Everybody can see what's in it, except the
proprietary stuff,
the proprietary information. But besides that, everything is there, and like. There's certain products that we sell that we won't sell, like in California or whatever. So we don't do it because it's tough to come in and say, okay, everybody can buy it, but you can't.
Yeah.
So we'd rather just not bring it in that case. Like why piss off certain people for no reason.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. So
they go to the training. How about go ahead.
So the training's it's a weekend. You arrive on Friday. You're there till Sunday, and you're going to learn everything: how to mix it, how to use it. Because when you get into the industrial commercial coating, It's not something that you can use half of and then we're going to put it on the side or we'll get back to it in 4 months. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You mix a batch, you're doing a batch.
What's the pot life on it? 60 minutes?
No, it's a little more than that. You're a little more than that. I think you're about 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, that's good. That's not too
Yeah,
bad.
so that's not bad. And again, that'll be dependent on climate, temperature, moisture, the humidity, everything, right?
Right.
So, but the guys go over that, and there's guides to follow that. And you know what? We're learning still every day. We have another example of an area where the corrosion is big as paper mills.
Jeez.
And so we have a paper mill that's doing some testing, and let me tell you, it gets pretty hot and wet in the paper mill.
Yeah.
So, you're learning how your product is reacting, and then we got to go back to the lab and, okay, hey, what are we doing, guys? What can we do? No, we need to add more diluent. No, we need to reduce the diluent. We need to, and that's the beauty part about being the manufacturer, is that we have the lab there to do those tests and get back to us as quickly as possible. But sometimes quickly is not like quick, because they got to do the test.
Yeah. And then you may end up with 8 or 9 revisions, and then each one has to test. That's one of the challenges that I think most people don't realize about chemical creation.
Yes.
Especially in a country like, you guys are northern, so you're more temperate than we are, more static. Here right now it's 130 degrees in Death Valley, California, and in the desert out there, 120 in Phoenix and dry. It's.
But you're like Malaysia. You're like Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we lived in Connecticut, we had to have a humidifier empty every day because there was so much moisture in the house, or dehumidifier, not a humidifier.
Dehumidifier. So. I got one going. They're hooked up now automatically to your furnace, so they're just part of your furnace today.
Yeah, we do the opposite in Montana. We put humidifiers in our heat and air system out here because we have no humidity. So how does a detailer go about, like, let's say they got a training, they're certified or all of that. Do they need a paint booth?
No, not for ages. You don't need one, but we always recommend to use one. So we have one at the training center. So when you go to the training center, we've modified our training centers for once we started to bring in the industrial coatings, and we vent out and everything because we have an exhaust system that vents out. Because certain states have certain regulations, 0.85% or whatever, VOCs allowed in the air or whatever. So you got to make sure that you're always within those. We're fortunate. Aegis doesn't even come close to any of that. So we don't worry about it. But the guys are going to learn all about that at the training center during their training. And then what they do, which is cool, is they'll go over a lot of projects that we're doing or working on. So it gets their mind stimulating to say, shit, I got this guy back home that I can go see now. Because the biggest thing is to try to get them out of that car mode. When they're sitting there in the class and and we're trying to teach industrial and they're talking about, well, what about my rims? Can I put that on my rims? Dude, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. So they don't think much beyond that.
No. And the best way to explain that is you're content making your, this much money. I want to make you generational money.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want you to think. In Pennsylvania, we're working with some of the largest propane tank manufacturers, and I'm talking anything from a 20-pound propane tank to a 20,000 pound, propane tank.
We have 1,000-gallon one here at my house. So
there you go.
Those things are huge.
And they rust.
Yeah. Especially the ones, ours is above ground, but they bury them.
Yes.
And they're quote unquote coated, which I think is kind of almost like a variation on a powder coat is how they do that. But those things, I don't know what the lifespan is on those, but they're not that.
So the valves are 10 years. So typically on a 20-pound propane tank for your barbecue, those valves have to be replaced every 10 years and the tank gets re-stamped. So typically the tank will go, the valve will come off, they'll sandblast the tank, they'll repowder coat it, they'll restamp it when they put the new valve in, and it's good for another 10 years.
Okay.
Typically that's how it works.
But coating those with ages, especially the in-ground ones, just give it that much more protection.
Well, what it'll do is that in 10 years, you may just have to change the valve. You might not have to sandblast, repaint. You know what I mean? Because it'll be fine. So
for a major company that has one of those exchange programs, that the guys that are supplying those, that would be huge. You're dealing with that all the time.
Yeah, because that's their biggest cost is the valve replacement and the sandblasting and powder coating, and that's their biggest cost. Otherwise, it's the drivers to go from gas station to gas station, grocery store to grocery store.
Right. So how are these guys building that market? Because this is like, if you gotta, you're trying to teach them to get out of the automotive mindset. Are you giving them like that business and sales background to say that's why we do that at the classes. We go over a lot of the marketing and the business side, and we don't want to get anybody out of the automotive. Listen, automotive is our number one, money maker. But what we want to do is we just want to help people build something better for their own selves and their own families and everything else. So if we can add more products to tie into the industrial that give maybe a company like John Deere more of a reason to call somebody up, well, that's great. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to generate those calls for our installers in that case. And I'll be honest, what's helping us out a lot is our detailing competitors. Mm-hmm.
They are actually giving us a big push because, they're going out there coating tractors and telling them that it's UV. Listen, even Aegis is UV for maybe 2-3 years. There is no UV coating on the marketplace. We've tried to manufacture one, Kyung has said, for the last 14 years. The furthest we've gotten is 3 years and it's Aegis. But and we would never sell a coating based on UV protection. Will it ever fade? Yes, it will. So people got to stop lying to customers. But like I said, because they're not stopping lying to customers, they're helping grow our business. And our competitors are saying, oh, this is an industrial coating. It'll do just as well as that. The first time there's a chemical spill, it's gone.
It's gone.
And then the farmer's like, well, what the hell did you just do? I thought you were protecting something, so if you don't, how do you say, I don't go to a hockey game with a baseball bat. I go to a hockey game with a hockey stick.
Yeah.
If you don't have the hockey stick, don't go to the fucking game.
Yeah. I mean, at least in the U.S. and Canada, the same way, because you guys have a huge wheat production up there. Most of the areas of the U.S. have farm equipment of some sort. And, we're, like I said, I grew up farm and ranch. I live in farming country. Most people don't realize what a tractor or combine costs.
I have no clue.
We have big 8-wheel John Deere's up here. They're $350,000 to $500,000. These
in
these
Canada,
tractors.
They're $850,000, $900,000. They're almost $1 million. These machines are, they drive themselves. Yes, I'll give them that. They do everything pretty well. You're just like a pilot in the plane. You got to land it and take off. Machine will do pretty well everything else. But these are big money. People want to protect.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so I was actually playing farmer back when the very first one of those they called them no steer at that time.
Yeah.
And the technology wasn't even developed. You had to turn the tractor at both ends, but then it would steer it in the middle, of it. But now they're basically self-driving at this point.
They are. I got a good friend of mine, Cookie, and fantastic guy. And he's got a big outfit. And I always told him, I said, when I retire, I just want to go drive a tractor. I just want to get in. Now you got your phone is hooked up. You got your air conditioning. You got Sirius radio. You got it all. But I told him, I said, I'd love to just be a lone piece. Like the piece to be out there is pretty damn cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, I always thought that would be a great retirement. Either that or a starter at a golf course next on tee.
That's funny. So what's the cost and margins on some of these tractors? I'm trying to sell people on doing major equipment, because even if it's not a tractor, I mean, we've got independent trash companies that have big, that like anything huge. Think of that.
Yeah. So we're working a lot with concrete companies. And where the concrete company benefits is they're using a lot less acid washes now.
Okay.
So by lowering the amount of acid washes, you lower the amount of risk of employees getting hurt. So you lower your payouts on WSIB, which workman's comp,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So big benefits, right? So, again, when we say the best way we always say that it's how much money that we're going to save you versus replacement costs. Because now, you go to a mine in Australia in the south where, it's all clay, and that's very, very, very corrosive. And where you're replacing these, loaders or trucks that the wheels are bigger than a four floor apartment building yearly. Now you don't have to replace it for 3 years.
Wow.
So it's not always about this is going to last you a lifetime. No, this is going to delay you from spending maybe 20, 30 million every year to doing it every 3 years.
Yeah. They use that same math to sell in marine too. You've got these mega yachts and uncoated yachts may have to be repolished and resealed once a year, but if they're coated with a good coating, it's 3 years, at least 2 years. Well, they're spending $150,000 to have that thing done every year. That's a huge saving.
Yeah. Well, and think about cruise ships, Disney cruise ships or other cruise ships. A lot of corrosion in the engine rooms.
Yeah.
A lot of corrosions not in the engine rooms. So it's because they're out on sea. They're exposed all day long every day. So there's a lot of stuff that can be coated on places like that, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that can be done. And so, yeah, we take them by the hand a little bit, and we try to help them. Some guys, they'll come to the class, they'll leave, I can't sell it. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't, nobody's biting. And, when you leave, you get a free kit that arrives at your house the following week for you to play with, right? We give you that. And where I think the mistake happens is some of these guys are waiting to use that free kit to make money, where the reason we give them that free kit is start spraying shit, start spraying everything, start testing. You got to make yourself samples of things that you can bring to a potential call and say, here, this is what we can do. Because you know your area way more than I do.
Right.
In Montana, it could be something totally, hey, this is rust, da, da, da. Okay, so, we had one guy, he went to his municipality because they had like 20 something dog parks in the city. And what happens is when the light posts in the dog parks, the dogs would urinate on the posts. And so from, yay high down was all corroding and ruining and just whatever. So they tinted it black, painted the whole post black, put it back out. Dogs pee galore. Go ahead. Nothing happens to the post now.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a bunch of yellow spots in somebody's yard, that's dog pee. Because some dogs are different. Some dogs are more acidic than others, but that's a really acidic.
Yeah, and that's just another example of something that could be used for agents.
So, like the major projects, like at manufacturers stuff, you guys are driving that corporately, but then you're also you're encouraging detailers and business owners. We don't even call them detailers, business owners to drive those in their own area, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Think about the DOD project. Night vision goggles, helmets. So, when you put on your night vision goggle helmet, when I look through my night visions, I will see all the certain color helmets because I know that's all American soldiers. If I see a color that's not, that's not one of ours. That's got to be, click, right? Yep. So These all end up in Afghanistan and Iraq and places like that. And what happens is the paint that does that glow in the dark effect over time gets corroded and then doesn't react properly. So, coat those, ages those, right? There's another example of something that can be ages.
So it doesn't change that refractability and the reflectability in the actual original paint.
No.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that, and those are just other examples, but so again, like I say, you go for a walk tonight with your dog, just look around and anything that you see that's rusted, say, man, we could have.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is, at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS.
We could have had that looked after, right?
Yeah, so that's where you can engage yourself into, like city council meetings and talking to the controllers and talking to city managers and those kind of things to talk about stuff like that. If I want to coat somebody's tractor, what do I build that out at? And what does it cost me?
So again, what you would learn is there's certain things that we would recommend that you use Eclipse, not necessarily Aegis. In certain areas, you would use Aegis. And typically, I'm not the guy to really know that. Mike Carlin would more, or Marcus, because they've done a lot more, especially Mike being in Wisconsin. And he works with Case IH. But I do know that you're probably looking at around 4,000 to 7,000 to do one, and in cost of goods, you're maybe 15 to 2.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, because that's 2 to 3 times, 3.5 times what you charge for a car.
Yeah, and it takes the same amount of time. It doesn't take you any more or any less, right?
Yeah.
So people always ask me, oh, well, how come he can sell Kenzo for this much? First of all, I don't tell anybody what they can sell whatever for. You're the businessman. You know what you need. You know your business. You know how much. And they say, well, that's not right because they're going to devalue the product. Well, hang on. Not necessarily. So if you take a look at New York City, I live in Manhattan. 3 blocks over is the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
In Manhattan, I'm going to quote a Maserati. I'm going to be able to get, $2,500, whatever, for that Maserati. In the Bronx, I'm quoting a Honda Accord that's a 1992. And you know what? I'm going to charge the guy $800. I'm happy. I made money. He's happy. He got it coated. So what does it matter? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've always gone. It's every group. It's like, hey, what should I charge for this? And it's like, well, where do you live? What does your market look like?
What are your costs? You know your cost of doing business. Listen, for me to do a radio ad, it might cost me $100. For you, it might cost you $1,200. For the same ad, same time, same everything. So I don't know what it costs. I don't know what your rent is. I don't know what your shipping costs are to your business. I don't know anything about it until we sit down and we go through your P&L and figure it out, right? And then they're like, what's a P&L? And then you're like, oh boy, okay, here we go. And
that's a profit and loss statement. If anybody's listening to this and doesn't know what a P&L is, that's how you compare your margins and what you're spending.
And that's something that you should look at on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Manufacturers or importers, we had it rough for the last 3-4 years, COVID and everything, right? Containers that used to cost you $9,000, they went all the way up to $31,000, $32,000.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Same piece of metal, same square footage, but it went up from 9 to about 30.
Well, at least you got to look forward to it sitting off the coast of Long Beach for 45 days, right? Like
yeah,
that.
well, that's even, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. The daily fees of that sucker. Yeah. But then again, now, so some people had to move their prices up a little bit. Some people said, okay, we'll suck it in. COVID can't last forever. So we'll take the punch. But what we did is we were lucky because we were a manufacturer. And we're lucky because some of our partners are the raw ingredients manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously going to feed us before they feed competitors.
Right.
So we were lucky in that sense that we were able to get products. So Jeff and I, we sort of loaded up a little bit, and I'll be honest, that's how we probably grew 18% during COVID, because people were calling their regular supplier and they didn't have stock. So they, went to where there was stock. We had stock. So then they're like, oh, wow, you guys are pretty quick at shipping. Great. The product was good. Okay, I'll try it. Oh, it works. Okay. So maybe I'll buy more. At least I know you have it. So that helped a lot. But back to my thought is today, now we're getting back to about 12,000 on a container.
Yeah.
So now the manufacturers and distributors can breathe a little bit easier, because that money is now going back into our pockets, you, me, and we're able to maintain. So we were able to maintain, we knew it wasn't going to last forever. And if we did do a small price increase, well, it's a little bit better profit for us. And it's the same with a detailer. A detailer's not going to go now and say, okay, I'm going to lower my cost of doing this particular coating now because I'm making more money. No, you're not going to do that.
No.
Yeah,
and some industries they went through the roof. Like food costs were way overinflated.
They're still today.
58% grow. And like, dude, we know that you're not paying as much as you said as you were 2 years ago. So like they went over the top, but it's a commodity, right? So you don't really have any choice.
Where we're getting screwed on the groceries and everything is the carbon tax on the fuel. So they keep charging the fuel. So the fuel is crazy price now. And well, how does your food get from the farm? First of all, the guy doing the farm, he needs fuel to run all his equipment. Then the guy that's got to go pick up the farm, the fruits and vegetables, so that cost has to be passed along. And that's killing us. And but we have to do it for the future. And what are we talking when we say future? 200-300 years from now? Like,
see, we're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get in trouble now because we're talking climate change.
But that's all real stuff.
Yeah, the way the government works around petroleum products is a little crazy. We got the whole EV thing that's coming now, and which is actually worse for the environment than most cars. And all of it. Believe. Do the research, read about it.
Yes. So how was AFO? I missed. I wasn't able to get there, and I feel bad, but unfortunately, I just couldn't do it.
They did talk about you in good terms. Air Force One is what he's talking about. We actually just came back from Air Force One project, and I was there kind of in double duty because I was there for Detailers Helper, which we've supported them since 2014. And then Detailers Roadmap. This is Detailers Roadmap first year. And Chris and I went out. We interviewed about 8 to 10 people.
Beautiful.
Including Rennie. It was just an awesome time. And it was a 20th anniversary. So it was really a blessing to be there and to share that with everybody.
Yeah.
So
we're a big sponsor. We like sponsoring those guys. They're all such professional people. They do an awesome job.
They definitely are business owners.
They are business owners. Well, Rennie, I'm going to be going up there, and I think it's in August. We're doing an industrial training.
Oh, nice. Going up to Big Bear, huh?
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. Awesome. I'm excited.
What do you see? We're kind of wrapping it up here because I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're busy. What do you see the state of the industry is right now, the detailing industry? I was talking to somebody, actually it was Justin Lobato, at Air Force One about there's this group of people that have kind of been around 10, 11, 12 years in more prominent in the industry. And then there's kind of this new crowd And it seems like it's changed slightly, not necessarily for the better or for the worse. But where do you kind of see the detailing side of the industry going right now?
I, you know what, we're fortunate. We see an upswing. I think that people, everybody wants to go swimming in everybody else's pool. You know what I mean? Your pool's pretty shiny. It's got a black bottom instead of a blue bottom. I want to dive in. So that happens. But I can honestly say that they all end up back at the regular pool because the price is, whatever, right? The membership is better. I don't know. But no, we're very fortunate in that regards. I think the industry is, and I agree with Justin, it's people just need to focus more on the business at hand and less on what everybody else is doing. You got too many people that are trying to be, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, so please don't take it in a bad way, but too many people want to be a Rennie Doyle, want to be a Justin Labato, want to be a Mike Phillips. And guys, there's only one of those guys. You know what I mean? I'd rather be a Joel LaPalme.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
As Rennie pointed out, Diane reminds him all the time that thank God for the world that there's only one of him. We actually had that conversation.
Yeah. No, and it's important because you know what? You need a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
To make it work. Like Rennie will give you a lot, and then I can give you maybe some stuff on some business side. I managed and ran large publicly traded companies for a long time. And I have some of that background that I can help people with and maybe a different perspective of looking at things. Yeah. And I can maybe say that, Kevin, what are you doing? Like, you could be digging that hole as long as you want, but I swear to God, there ain't no gold at the bottom. So let's get out and let's go dig a hole over here.
Well, and I've spent my entirety since we started Detailer's Helper. Everything I've done is business related because that's my background. I'm a business, just like you. It's funny because you move from grocery to food to industrial to automotive, and it's a guy like yourself, and I believe someone like myself also. It doesn't really matter what the product, service, or business is. The same principles apply: customer service, knowing your numbers,
knowing your numbers.
All of that. Knowing your numbers is a big thing, right?
Yeah. Like, and people don't understand. Like when I was with Price Club, when I was director with Price Club, we have what you call basket average, and at the end of the week, every department had to have a basket average, so they had to maintain that basket average. So let's say you schedule your people Monday to Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it poured rain, and people just weren't coming out to shop. Mm-hmm. So as a department manager, you better be reacting and cutting hours Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and tacking them back in on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you're going to get fucking whooping. It's going to be nuts. And if you didn't, well, guess what? That's why when you go to Price Club, 2 reasons you'll see people, their name tag is their uniform. Mm-hmm. They're wearing their own T-shirts. There's no uniform. There's no Price Club shirt. It's your team. Your name tag is your. And the reason you do that is you don't know. The warehouse director's on cash today. The HR manager, instead of being she's on cash tomorrow because we blew the budget Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because we didn't manage properly. Because it doesn't matter what happens at the end of the week, Sunday, when we lock the door at the end of the day, we got to be able to say, shit, we achieved our basket average. So my question to detailers is, how many times do you react to situations like that? When I used to own the grocery store and it started to snow outside, I used to tell my guys, go get the salt, put it under the caches. Go get the snow brushes, put them at the caches. Now's the time, right? Mm-hmm. If it was raining outside, where are the umbrellas? I want the umbrellas at the cash registers now. I don't want somebody walking in, going looking for an umbrella and trying to find. No, I want them fucking tripping on the umbrellas.
Right.
So it's the same thing in detailing. What is it that we're offering people? So when I go into a detail shop and I look around and I don't see a menu, I don't see something that tells me the services you provide. So unless me as a customer asks that particular question or that leading question, you're never going to sell that service because you're not going to think about presenting it, you know?
That's for sure.
Yeah. And I walk into a lot of businesses that don't even have a sign outside, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's this whole like, well, I don't do that because I'm a boutique and I really want to limit the number. Well, like that's an easy way to limit the number of customers you get, which can work, but it only works for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, a business with no sign is a sign of no business.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't like it, but I like the phrase. Because
what happens is, okay, you know what? I'm busy today, but demographics change. Your people that you have today are not going to be here in 5 years. You know, they may have moved to a retirement community, this, that. How are you replacing those? Well, shit, now I got a lot of openings. Well, now you panic and now you got to, too late. Yep. Anyways.
Being able to plan ahead. So, I mean, so what do you think are we going to keep these high pricing for a while?
I think the pricing is comfortable right now. I mean, I don't know what it's like in the US. Here in Canada, where we're getting killed is inflation, interest rates. I feel bad for kids like my daughter. Well, not my daughter. My daughter's 30 something now, but I feel bad for younger kids that they can't buy a home.
Yeah.
Like if I look at beginning of COVID, interest rates were 2.8, 2.7 here in Canada. And we just had another lift last week. I think interest rate is now 6%. So on $1 million mortgage,
I mean, you're actually a little bit lower than us. We're about 7. We're hovering around 7%.
Where were you at the beginning of COVID?
Thing. Oh yeah, 2.4, 2.5 somewhere.
So think about if you have a mortgage. Like I'm fortunate, knock on wood, I don't have a mortgage. But if you had a mortgage, frigus on $1 million property, 2.4 to 7. Yeah, you're talking a big chunk of change every month, right?
Yep, about $2,000, probably something like that. Yeah. It can really jump up.
So where do you tell these kids to go find an extra $2,000 a month?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, they need to do unless they're going to go install industrial coatings. That's where they get it, right?
I hope so.
bring that back around.
Yeah. Thanks for having me out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on. And where do we find you? Where do we find information about IGL and all that?
Yeah, IGL Coatings USA.com. Pretty simple. You can always reach me anytime. And people don't understand why I do that, but I give my personal cell. It's 647-456-7764. And if one other thing, if you don't have a voicemail on your phone and I call it, I ain't leaving one, because if it says you've reached 4032, to me, that's again a sign of no business.
Yeah.
If you're going to operate a business, put a little bit of effort into it, have a professional voicemail, act the part, So, so that's how you can reach me by phone, or my email is jlapalme@iglcoatingsusa.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Joel. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.